So today we will learn about air distribution. Air distribution, ductwork should deliver air to an area as directly, quietly, and economically as possible. We talked about this in the previous slides. Uh, Here's some ductwork. So, in a commercial project, we're trying to reduce floor to floor dimensions. And what I mean is, if we have a tall building and we have a floor and we have another floor and we have another floor, our HVAC equipment goes in the ceiling. So we have a ceiling space here full of HVAC equipment that's wasted. So if our building is 100 feet tall, how much of this 100 feet is wasted to HVAC? So if we were to measure from the bottom of one floor, for example, to the bottom of the next floor, this is our floor to floor dimension. We want to make this as small as possible. And we do that by making this portion here as small as possible. And this portion is the HVAC portion. So the narrower we can make our HVAC equipment, the smaller we can make the floor-to-floor equipment, and the shorter the building would be. Or in other words, we can pack more floors into a building of the same height. If we cut this in half, maybe in the 100 feet or whatever, we can add another floor. And I should mention, why do we want to add another floor? From an economic perspective, I have a piece of land, and my land cost me, $1 million, or whatever it cost me, or it cost my customer $1 million. The city says to the customer, you can build a building in this area and it's zoned for not a number of stories, but a number of height. So, you can build this building 100 feet tall, 200 feet tall, 600 feet tall. So the developer is going to try to pack as many floors into the 100 or 200 or 600 feet as he can. Because the more floors he has, the more space he has, the more he can sell, the more money he's going to make. So the more efficient the HVAC is, the more square feet we end up in the building, and the more money we can make. So for air terminal units, there's three main types. You can have one that's fan powered. You can have one that's a variable air volume unit, and you can have other types that are in room. We'll look at that later. It's important for new construction to insulate supply air ducts. Older buildings didn't really do that. Newer buildings do. There's different energy code requirements. If you look at some ducts here, you can see they've got this insulation, and it's aluminum foil on the outside, and there's kind of a fiberglass filling on the inside. And the reason we do this is that we are trapping the heat inside the duct. We don't want we want as little heat as possible to be escaping during the journey, because it costs money to make heat. We don't want the heat to end up in the ceiling space. We want the heat to end up in the room. And of course, the cost of this insulation up front must be considered versus the cost of losing all this heat energy over the lifetime of the system. And obviously, the cost of the insulation is much, much lower. The plenum. So, the plenum is the space between the ceiling and the floor slab above it. And we take the plenum and we use it to reduce distribution ductwork. We just vacuum up all that air and send it back into our HVAC system. So the plenum air should be 3 to 5 degrees higher during the air conditioning season than the return. The other option you can use as a plenum is the floor. And this is really popular, especially in clean rooms and server rooms. It's called an underfloor air displacement system. So the floor is raised, and that reduces construction costs and improves system efficiency. So here's an example of a raised floor. This right here is a true floor, and we install this framework. It's about a foot high, and we drop these tiles on top, and so this area becomes the plenum, and our air passes through, and hot air rises obviously through the cracks. We can also install tiles with vents in them, you will see. And this area, of course, becomes our floor. And in a server room, these tiles are also good for installing power and data cables. You got to keep in mind, of course, to use data cables that are plenum rated.